Well, that happened, and to quote a thread I saw, now I know what it feels like to be a conspiracy theorist. Hi, I'm Carolyn. Welcome back to another episode of As I See It. If you clicked on this thumbnail because you saw my face, just know this is not my RV channel. This is my political channel, which some people ask me to start because they like hearing my thoughts on things. So we have a lot going on, don't we? So back to my statement about now I know what it feels like to be a conspiracy theorist. The very first tweet I sent yesterday after finding out what happened is that it looked staged. And I think that we all, myself included, need to kind of step back, wait for the evidence to come forward before we jump to any conclusions. I will say I'm not going to apologize for tweeting that. I'm not going to apologize for feeling that way. If we look at the history and behavior of this individual, we know that as a narcissistic, what do they call it? A malignant, narcissistic, sociopath, psychopath. We know, but especially as the narcissistic aspect of it, they will go to no lengths for attention, to get the narrative, to get the media, to get the focus back on them. We also know that this individual is a person who is desperate to win. His life depends on winning the presidency. His freedom depends on winning the presidency. His financial future depends on him winning the presidency. So with all of his life, liberty, pursuit of happiness at stake for a malignant narcissist and also a sociopath, what lengths would he go to make sure he wins? I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying that you can't blame us. For those of us who are feeling like something's not feeling right here, how does a guy with an AR-style weapon get past Secret Service, all of the security, 400 yards away? A football field is about 400 feet away. A football field is about 300 feet, and he was 400 feet away. On a roof. Why were there not snipers on that roof? I mean, with 400 feet, a clear view of Trump. How was that allowed to happen? I've seen a lot of news coverage about all the lengths they go to make sure these events are secure. Really? 400 feet away, a rooftop with a perfect sight right at his head. Really? And once shots were fired, he was taken out immediately. That is red flag number one. Red flag number two was how in the middle of all the chaos, how was he allowed to pop his head up? I mean, you can see they're all like acting like they're trying to cover him and they're using their bodies as shields, you know, and he's allowed to put his head up and raise his fist and tell his audience, fight, fight, fight. Couple things about that. Number one, that it was allowed to happen, that the Secret Service were human shields, and yet he was allowed to pop his head up. They had no idea in the middle of the chaos. Seconds after this happened, they didn't know how many shooters there were. They didn't know where the shot. They might have, I mean, even if in their earpiece they heard that one shooter was down, they didn't know if there were more. They didn't know if there was one in the crowd. There is no way they would have allowed. That just seems improbable to me. That Secret Service would have allowed him to pop his head up. The other thing that is striking to me about that is who, when seconds after a near-death experience, their first thought is to do this. I guess maybe a narcissist who needs all the attention, but I don't know. I mean, if I came this close to getting a bullet in the head, I don't think my first thought would be to rally my audience. I don't think that would be my first thought. Especially, like I said, going back to my second point, you don't know. He didn't know at that point if the shooter was still alive or not. He didn't know if there was more than one shooter. And his first thought was to stand up and do this. Odd. Very odd. There seemed to be also some very, very nice campaign photos out there with blood on his face and his fist pumped and the American flag behind him. Some very good photos. Odd. So there are definitely some things to me that seem off about the whole situation. The third thing is that there are interviews now with people who were outside the arena who saw this armed person climbing up, bear crawling on the roof. They notified police. They notified Secret Service. The one guy in the orange hat that you'll see on social media, who has gone viral, says that the Secret Service knew they were partying over there by a set of trees. He said Secret Service knew they were there. They noticed Secret Service watching them. They notified police 5-10 minutes before that there was a guy on the roof with a weapon. And Trump was still allowed to go to the podium and speak? I mean, even if they couldn't neutralize the shooter then, they got earpieces. They would have said, well, listen, we got even a report of someone. Don't let him go to the podium. And nobody did anything? I have a lot of questions, and I realize I feel like this is what it's like to be a conspiracy theorist, and it's kind of weird, but I think a lot of us have the same questions and the same doubts. If we were dealing with a rational, normal, sane person who does not use violent rhetoric and doesn't use every tool, weapon at his disposal to manipulate his audience, we would not be having this conversation. But we have seen the lengths that this person will go to fire up his base. He wants civil war. He wants his base fired up. He wants to be the martyr. That's how every authoritarian rises to power, through martyrdom. And if it doesn't happen organically, why not create it? These are just thoughts. These are just theories. I realize I sound like a conspiracy theorist. And like I said, I am waiting for the evidence. I'm waiting for the investigation to play out. These are just some suspicions and thoughts that I have. And it's unfortunate that we have these thoughts. It's unfortunate that we live in a country where violence is on the menu every single day. And as other commentators are saying, I am not going to allow myself to be gaslit into not thinking these things and not exploring these possibilities, these theories, these ideas. I am not going to be gaslit into believing that the liberals have caused this violence in America. I'm going to put a link below to a Midas Touch video if you haven't seen it yet. I know a lot of you watch Midas Touch, but it was the first thing I watched this morning, and it was Ben Meisalas reading campaign fundraising emails he gets from the Trump campaign. The language, the language is horrible. So the horrible evil left is stealing it's terrible. It's disgusting. And he knows he uses explosive, violent rhetoric on purpose. We have to use the big guns, and I don't know. I don't remember all of it. So watch the video, but it's very explosive, very violent rhetoric, and he uses this on purpose. This isn't hyperbole. This is him using violent rhetoric, painting the left wing as dangerous, evil, less than human people on purpose, because that validates any violence his people are willing to commit on behalf of him and his version of what America should look like, Project 2025. So the gunman has been identified as a 20-year-old Republican. So there's that. I'm glad that it wasn't the other side, but I also heard another statistic this morning that 4% of all violent extremist violence, 4% is by liberals. That leaves 96% by non-liberals. Here is where I keep falling. Whether this is real or not, whether this is a real crazy 20-year-old who acted on his own, or whether it was something else, we're going to start seeing, we already have seen, J.D. Vance and a couple other political people in Congress have already said that Biden ordered this hit. They're already saying that. Again, I studied a lot of fascism in my degree in political science and economics and history. I studied the KGB specifically. My concern with this rhetoric coming out immediately that Joe Biden ordered this, that by comparing Trump to Hitler, the left has caused this. An attempt on a presidential candidate's life gives validation to execution in the future. That's my concern. That if he wins, there will be an investigation into this. The investigation will find that all of his political enemies were behind it. And with the violent language that Trump is already using to dehumanize the left as this unhuman force that just wants to take everything away from them and hurt children and make everybody gay for their perverse reasons. They want to murder babies, all the other things that they accuse us of that are completely insane. They've already planted that seed in the minds of their base that this is who we are. We are evil, subhuman people who just have the worst motives for everything we do. If he gets into office and his investigators find, and they will, that Joe Biden was behind this, and they will, that gives him permission to do what he's wanted to do all along, what he has been promising he will do all along. He has promised that this is a tour of revenge. Now, an attempt on his life gives it even more legitimacy for not only persecuting, but possibly executing his perceived enemies. That's where I'm sitting today. That's where I'm landing. Real or not. So, with that said, don't lose sight of what we need to do. Regardless of whether this is real or not, it'll be used to take the focus off the things we need to be focusing on. Project 2025, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, rights for other marginalized communities, rights for all of us, actually. Rights for all of us. Because if Project 2025, if Trump's Project 2025 prevails, we will all lose our rights. Leave your thoughts below. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm really kind of glued to the news today, but I got work to do on my other channel. Thanks for being here. If you like my content, do me a favor and subscribe below. I reached 4,000 subscribers this past couple of weeks, so it's an honor that you are here to hear my thoughts on these things. And I share this even though part of my brain is going, you're going down crazy conspiracy theories, you're sounding like QAnon, and I recognize that. But like I said, I am not basing my theories on just pulling them out of my butt, out of the blue. My theories and my concerns are based on what I have seen. They are based on actual reality from a malignant narcissist who we know will go to every length, the ends of the earth, to protect himself. And I've got a lot, I got a lot of concerns. He just met with Orban, who met with Putin. His plane was parked on the tarmac with Putin's plane and somebody else. It was, I can't remember, somebody else's plane. the timing just seems really interesting. So watch that video below of Ben Meiselas so that you can see some of the campaign emails that have been sent out, including the ones that were leading up to this event, which said the headline of all of the emails leading up to this event, the headline was "All hell is going to break loose in Pennsylvania." Weird. All right, I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here. Take care. Spread the news about Project 2025 and don't let this be too much of a distraction. We've got work to do.